Welcome back, and in this video we want to look at how we make string functions. So we work with strings a lot. Probably we're going to want to make our own functions to do things to strings. Now we've already made functions of arrays, and functions of arrays and strings are very similar, except that strings have a terminator, the null character. So most of what we learned about arrays will work with strings. Okay? So what I've done here is I've created two functions. One I've called string rotation. Okay? It takes a string. Notice that you tell it it's taking a string just like you would tell it that it was taking an array by this empty brackets, and then it's taking an integer. Void means it's not returning any number. Okay? Although we could write functions that do return things. The second one is string invert caps. It takes whatever this string in is, and it writes a new string that will be all capitals. I've got them defined down here. So here's string rotation. Okay, whatever the string is, right? It first finds out the length of the string because it's using a for loop. If you want to work with a string, just as if you were working with an array, you need a for loop. But unlike an array, it's easy for me to figure out how long a string is, just using the string length function. Can't do that with an array. When I had an array, I always had to tell the function how many elements I wanted to work with in that array. So strings are a little nicer than arrays in that way. You always know their length. So all I do is in the ASCII table, I take the number and shift it upwards. It could be a negative number, so I could shift it down, right? So I'm just moving up and down in the ASCII table. What symbols, right? So if 65 is capital A and I add 2, it'll be capital C. Okay? Now, I am actually changing the string, right? What's in the memory for the string will be changed by this. I might not want to change my original string, so something like that, I'd have a string in and a string out. I'd always make sure that string out had enough room for whatever I was going to do with it. Okay? And what I do here is I use a for loop. How strange, it's a string, work with a for loop, right? And if each character is an upper, you'd switch it to a lower, right? Right? And if it's lower, you change it to an upper, okay? And to terminate the string, because I don't know about string out, right? I'm putting the terminator, right? Character in, so we know that it's a string. So let's have a look at me calling it, right? So here's just this message. We start with string 1, which is physics 1600. Okay? I take physics 1600, and each character I shift by 2. So physics 1600 will have been changed to something different when I print it out again. But I can also go back to, I can shift up the ASCII table, I can shift down the ASCII table. So I rotate up, then I rotate back. So these should be the same. Let's look at what we have here, right? We start with physics 1600, PQR, right? HIJ. Yeah, you can see that we're working up the way we should, right? Then we take this string and back down to, so we get back. String invert caps, we're going to start with 2 strings, string 3, right? There's string 3, hello world, right? And this blank string. I've made it an empty string, right? I could just leave this empty, but memory space usually has junk in it, right? when I use this double quote, I'm saying there's no characters in it. So end at a blank character, end at a null, or start and end at a null, actually. Right? So when I do this, we'll get this. Right? So test of string invert caps. We start with two strings, hello world and empty. And here's the original string, but here's the output string, where all the letters here have been inverted. Just want to show you what would happen if I come up here and get rid of that. Right? So this is just given 20 characters, right? But it's not pointing at anything. There's nothing in there. Okay, so when I print this out, let's see what happens. Let's work through, call this back up. Flashing, soon be done. Okay, now you'll see that this isn't empty anymore. Okay? The last iteration of the program had put these characters in the space. Okay? Okay. And when this program ran again, and I printed that stuff out, it didn't see a terminator and until the end of this inverted hello world. Right? So if you try to print strings that are blank, you can get all kinds of garbage. So just making a blank string like this, all the garbage that's ahead of it in memory, or all times the function been compiled, is still there. So if you want this to actually be an empty string, right, make sure that you use string literals with nothing in between. That's it. Thanks for now.